Welcome back to the morning show here on the Rise News. It's 3 days to the general elections, and the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has released a list of offences voters should avoid during the electoral exercise. This list is inclusive but not limited to multiple voting, underage registration, breach of public peace, impersonation, publication of fake election results, and so on. Now, joining us from Abuja studio to speak on this and so much more is the Chief Press Secretary to the INEC Chairman, Rotimi Oyekanmi. Welcome to the morning show.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Yes, good morning to you. And please, we'll start it off on the incidences that have been bedeviling INEC in the last 12 days. Please help us make sense of this third fire incident we've actually witnessed in Anambra, following that of Abia State and also Plateau State.
Thank you very much. Making sense of it will be a Herculean task, really, because it came as a surprise. The first happened, of course, in Abia State on February the 2nd. Then we have the Kwanpan incident in Plateau State more recently. And then yesterday, we had the one in Oka in Anambra State. And it shocked us, but of course, having conducted elections over the last 15 years, we are used to some of these incidents happening at the last minute, so we are prepared. We have reported the incidents to the police. Specifically, we informed the Inspector General of Police. In the case of Plateau State, I must say here that the Commissioner of Police was very proactive. He went to the scene of the incident and mobilized his men, and arrangements have been made now to beef up security because, as you all know now, we are moving so many materials to all the states, and all these things need to be protected. It's unfortunate, but we are trying to ensure that the elections will go on as planned in each of these areas. Well,
INEC has reiterated several times its preparedness for these elections, but these fire incidents, especially in Anambra State, where you have lost 4,695 smart card readers, is a setback for this election, isn't it?
It's a temporary setback. Like I said, we have prepared for this kind of eventuality. We have some smart card readers that we call spare for redundancies, just in case some smart card readers malfunction or we have any unexpected event. So we are mobilizing these spare smart card readers from where they are straight to Anambra State, and we are going to be ready. They will make them ready for the elections on Saturday. No doubt about that.
Okay, Mr. Oyekanmi, two quick questions. First, INEC created new voting points, about 5,800, over 5,800 of that. Now, some of the parties have been objecting to this. What I want you to clarify to Nigerians is whether these new voting points are sufficiently publicized for all stakeholders to know where they exist.
Thank you very much. There is nothing INEC has done that we don't carry stakeholders along. Whenever we want to take a step, we invite the critical stakeholders, especially the political parties, every process of the way. Remember, the number of registered voters has increased. In 2015, we had almost 70 million. Today, we have over 84 million. And assuming 50% of them turn up, we all know what that will look like. And new settlements have turned up. In a polling unit, ideally, you shouldn't have more than between 500 and 750 voters. If you have more than that, then there is the need to create a voting point which will be attached to the polling unit. Because, of course, if you allow the polling units to have over 1,000 voters or 1,500 voters, voting will continue late into the night, even to the next morning. So there is nothing we have done that we don't carry critical stakeholders, especially the political parties, along.
Now, can you just take us through the issue of vote buying, bringing phones to the polling center, or not bringing phones? Take us through the process in order to avert vote buying, as we have seen in past elections in Ekiti,
2015 and 2015. 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 2015 and Thank you. You know, the issue of banning of smartphones came up after the 2 elections that you talked about, because we didn't envisage that some people could go to that extent. And what we said was that you can bring your smartphones to the polling unit area. In any case, the presiding officer is mandated to paste what we call the people's poster that will contain the results of the election at the polling unit in a conspicuous space after every election, after collation and counting has taken place. But what we have said is that at the point that you are entering the voting cubicle to cast your ballot, you will not be allowed to take your smartphone or any any equipment capable of taking photograph inside that place. But once you cast your ballot, once you thumbprint and put the ballot paper in the ballot box, you can have your phones back, and then you can move to some meters away from the polling unit, and then you can make use of your phone. So that's just the procedure. No phones or any photographic material in the voting cubicle while you are casting your votes.
I'm taking a look now at the Electoral Act. Section 129 prohibits the loitering of voters after they've cast their votes. Now, how do voters stand and defend their votes? Because there has been considerable concern about INEC's policy of continuous accreditation and voting. There's been some suspicion.
There is no suspicion. You know that arising from 2015 general election, we had observers turning in their reports. And one thing that was common in all reports was that the issue of accreditation first and voting later costs the country over 2 million voters. In other words, over 2 million voters were accredited, went back, and never returned. Some of them that did, when they got to the polling unit, they saw too much crowd and they went back. Some actually felt that accreditation and voting meant the same thing. So moving from that, one of the things INEC did was to accept that procedure. And since 2015, we have conducted 195 different types of election: by-election, rerun election, governorship election. And this process of simultaneous voting and accreditation was what we used all through. And like I said, critical stakeholders were also informed about this beforehand, including political parties, about people staying around the polling unit area. As long as you conduct yourself in a civil manner, you are allowed to stay around the polling unit area. There is a margin where people can stay. I think about 300 meters around the polling unit. You can stay there and watch and wait, as long as you don't disrupt the activities.
Just to follow up there about you saying there is no suspicion, but there absolutely is, such that INEC is involved in a plethora of lawsuits, some of which involve your INEC guidelines. You have your rationale for introducing these measures, but suspicion remains. Suspicion also remains on other aspects of the policies in view of the fact that we did not get the amended electoral law as expected. Can you tell us the status of some of the cases that you're involved in, including being sued, INEC being sued over the election guidelines, and yesterday's suit instituted by the PDP over the presence of Nigerian delegation at the Kano APC rally?
Well, you know, it is in the nature of politicians to be suspicious of everything. There is nothing the politicians are saying now that they did not say in 2015 or 2011. I think this country is a country where people are usually suspicious of every public institution. As far as INEC is concerned, we have been very transparent and open. We don't have anything to hide. The presence of the Nigerian nationals at the rally of a political party is not something the law is against. I haven't seen anything in the Electoral Act that says that a foreigner cannot be part of your campaign. What the law says is that a foreigner cannot vote in our elections. Okay? If you are not a Nigerian, you cannot vote in the election. And that one is what we say. So except you are telling me that those foreigners have our PVCs, then we will now be concerned to investigate that sort of thing. But joining the campaign, honestly, we haven't seen anything in the Electoral Act that prohibits people from taking part in campaigns.
All right, Mr. Oyekanmi, looking at as we build up to the elections, give us a status of how things will actually play out in some troubled regions of the country. Where will elections hold in every region of Nigeria, every state in Nigeria, every ward in Nigeria, and focusing majorly on those troubled regions in the northwest?
Thank you very much. We have 119,973 polling units and over 50,000 voting points. Election we hold in every polling unit and every voting point. And that's the plan that we have. We had drawn up this plan a long time ago. We started preparing for this election since 2015, and we are mobilizing all the resources that we have. We know that in places like Bayelsa, which is majorly riverine, we will need speedboats to get to certain areas. Even in the FCT here, there are places where you can't even, that are not motorable, that you have to take motorcycles or even donkeys to be able to take materials to those places. And of course, with respect to those southeast states where we have insurgencies, we have made contingency plans as to where people will vote and protection will be given to them. And we have a great deal of synergy with security agencies, and we are working together, and they are providing us with all the logistics that we need and the protection that our staff and even voters will need for the election.
Well, you talked about thumb printing some moments ago. Concerns are being raised over the ballot paper in an attempt for inclusivity to add more political parties. INEC has created this large ballot paper of 73 parties for the presidential election. But there are concerns that this ballot paper, the fingers to be used to vote, some people say it's a thumb, pinky finger, and the index finger. What exactly is it? Because they say, you know, this has the potential to increase blotted ballot papers and, of course, obviously, voided votes. What exactly is the situation, the ink, the fingers to vote with? Also, can you tell us the number of PVCs that were collected? We do know that 84 million people registered, but how many people got their PVCs?
Thank you very much. You can use any finger to vote. Remember, there are 73 political parties taking part in the presidential election. And of course, if you look at the ballot paper that we have now, the boxes are smaller than what we had in 2015. In 2015, we had less number of political parties, so the boxes were probably bigger. So in 2015, you could afford to use your thumb without any problem. But for this election, the ballot boxes are slightly smaller. So you can use any finger, index, thumb. The important thing is the mark that you make in the space of the political party of your choice. You must ensure that that mark will not stray into the box at the upper level or the box in the lower level, so that it will not render your vote invalid. But any finger that you are comfortable with, you can use. And that is possible because, you know, the ballot paper is not finger sensitive, it's not reading thumbprint. And in any case, when we were doing the continuous voter registration exercise, all the 10 fingerprints were captured. So voters can use any finger that they are comfortable with, but to ensure that they put the mark in the center of the box, right opposite the logo of the political parties of their choice.
And the PVCs? Can you tell us?
The PVCs, you know, we don't have the final figures now because it ended on Monday. We are collating the figures. We are asking the resident electoral commission from all the states to send the figures. I'm sure that by Thursday, the INEC chairman himself will brief the nation on various things, including the number of uncollected PVCs. INEC had assured Nigerians that at the end of the exercise, all uncollected PVC will be accounted for, mopped up, and put in a safe place. So we will give the number of collected PVCs, we will give the number of uncollected PVCs. I'm sure by Thursday that will be done.
Okay, Mr. Oyekanmi, a number of the opposition parties have called for INEC to publish the names of ad hoc staff it has recruited, because they are alleging that INEC is recruiting members of the ruling party as part of the Adhoc Staff. Why is it so difficult to publish the names of your Adhoc Staff you have recruited?
We require over 800,000 Adhoc staff for this election. Over 800,000. Now, you can imagine, our first line are members of the National Youth Service Corps. Everybody knows that, including political parties. I think the important thing for those who suspect us should do is to give us the names that they are sure of. When people say we have taken in members of opposition parties or political parties, they should please enlighten us. Give us the names and specific details, and then we can compare with the names that we have. But to provide over 800,000 names, I think that is totally unnecessary, really.
But if you're already adding, talking about the youth corpers, I'm not sure they're asking for the names of youth corpers. They know that youth corpers nationwide will be part of your Adhoc Staff. Remove that number. The number to publish will not be as big.
You said Adhoc Staff.
Yes.
No. You said Adhoc Staff. Those are Adhoc Staff includes members of the National Youth Service Corps.
And if you remove
where
that,
we have a shortfall, we can take in. Where we have a shortfall, we take in staff of federal institutions, federal universities, for instance. All right, and you know, we also have for collation and returning officers, we have a particular level of staff that we take. We don't just take anybody, and these people that we take are vetted, both at the institutional level and at the INEC level. For instance, the vice chancellors or senior academic staff that serve as returning and collation officers, their names are sent directly by the vice chancellors of those federal universities to the INEC chairman. And at the level of INEC, this list is also subjected to further vetting. You know, so if you now begin to release the names of this type of people before the election, it will be like a security breach.
The Electoral Act is clear. It bans abusive language, slander, or promotion of violence. Yet, in this highly acrimonious campaign season, we've witnessed or read reports of all of these. We've seen political office holders being pelted on stage at rallies, stabbings at rallies, yet INEC has not publicly called any of these parties to order, much less had them prosecuted. These offenses carry a fine and/or imprisonment. Why is this? Why is INEC not as robust in that aspect of its duties, according to the Act?
Well, we are preparing for elections, and so many things need to be done. When things happen, you monitor. The campaigns are still going on, and you monitor what is going on and take notes and note them. We have various channels of getting across the political parties. I'm very certain that the back channels are being used to call the attention of the chairmen, respective chairmen, and other top officials of political parties, those things that are being said that are not right. But, you know, it's not going to be possible to take quick action on an event that is still ongoing. Because, for instance, if somebody says something that is not good during the campaign in one state, and the person is, in the attention of that person is drawn to what he said, and it goes to another state and doesn't say it again, then you leave it like that, at that. But don't forget that we are preparing for a major election. It involves a lot of logistics. It involves a lot of things. It is the greatest preparation for any operation ever in peacetime. Therefore, I think that as we move forward, you know, we'll continue to address whatever wrongs that are being committed during the campaigns. And the political parties are aware. And I'm happy that the media is also paying attention to this. I think with what you have just said and what I've seen in other newspapers and social media platforms, the political parties will caution themselves on what they say.
All right, Mr. Oyekanmi, so a few days ago, the Independent National Electoral Commission actually inaugurated an interagency campaign finance monitoring group ahead of the general elections. When will the report from this group be published? Are we expecting it when? What's the time frame, and what are they supposed to cover majorly?
Well, certainly after the general elections, when all reports will have been turned in. There are various channels. You monitor election expenses generally, newspaper adverts, adverts on social media, on the radio and TV, and then you ask for political parties are actually mandated or required to submit their reports, to INEC on the election expenses they have incurred, including donations by individuals and all of that. And it is only when we have all these figures and all these ingredients, so to speak, that we can then give a final report. But the reports will come, definitely. Remember, we have the reports of the 2015 general elections about, campaign finance, and we also have the reports of what the political parties spend on various projects, So we require them to bring us the figures, which, if they don't give, it will be difficult for us to establish, but they are required to do that. And by the time we have everything that we need, we will produce a report for Nigeria, which we are going to make public.
Well, security agents have been accused of being used by politicians to intimidate opponents, rig the election, and falsify results. What is the plan in place to ensure that security agents during the elections do not run parallel security formations or security arrangements on that day, contrary to what INEC has? Because we do know that INEC's security arrangement is the one that security agents are supposed to, implement on that election day. Are there any plans? Is INEC really in control of security in this election? Plus, people want to know the restriction time for this election.
Thank you very much. The voting period is between 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. And every person on the queue as at 2 p.m. will be allowed to vote. In other words, voting can still continue after 2 p.m. until the last person on that queue had voted. With respect to security agencies, there's a code of conduct. In the last several months, INEC has carried out, with the support of development partners, several workshops and trainings for all security agencies. It's not just the police is the lead agency, but we have all other sister agencies also assisting. And these trainings have provided us with the opportunity of emphasizing the need to comply with certain rules and regulations. And each of them has a booklet called the Code of Conduct. And they are expected to abide by those rules contained in the Code of Conduct. I don't think that there's anything to worry about. What is important is for everybody to play by the rules. You go to the polling unit area, you conduct yourself. You are not allowed to intimidate anybody. You don't go to the polling unit with any weapon, or you don't engage in such activity that would disrupt election or cause panic. It is when you engage in this type of disruptive activities that the law enforcement agencies are required or will be allowed to then take care of that situation by quickly apprehending whoever it is that is causing the problem and to restore normalcy. I don't think there's anything to worry about. The security agencies, the new Inspector General of Police that we have, for me, is a fantastic human being. We've had several meetings, and he has made it very clear. Even security agencies, if you are a policeman and you are on election duty, you cannot go from where you are mandated to man to another place. If you escort the so-called VIP to another place around, he has given order that such policeman should be arrested.
Yes, Mr. Oyekanmi, our viewers want to know the restriction of movement. We know it's a lockdown on the election day, but restriction of movement, when does it commence and when does it lapse?
I think it commences 12 midnight on Friday and till 6 p.m. on Saturday.
All right, many thanks to you, Mr. Rotimi Oyekanmi, talking about the Chief Press Secretary to the INEC Chairman, for enlightening us as we build up to the general elections on Saturday.